formula supply. Join me now to react, representing Texas's 1st Congressional District, Congressman Louie Gohmert. Congressman, thank you so much for joining me. Congressman, we have a lot of crises we're dealing with here at home. Calling out the Biden administration for focusing so much on Ukraine versus actually helping the American people. Again, we're compassionate, and what is happening in Ukraine, a total atrocity. But we have some serious issues here, and we want to know what the administration is doing to fix that.
Yeah, well, and look, we've got to be somewhat sympathetic to President Biden. I mean, some of us can multitask, and he has trouble just doing one. So I understand his dilemma. He's just reading what he's been given to read. But the trouble is, if we don't have someone that knows how to get things done. He's been in government his whole adult life, except for 2 years. And when we had a president that got things done like Trump, if he had been told, okay, we've got a shortage of baby formula, he gets on the phone, talks to the people, the companies that produce it. What do you got to have? What do you need? And he cuts through the obstacles and we get it done. This president doesn't have a clue. He says, yeah, we're going to bring down the cost of gasoline. And yes, they canceled a lease that they were putting out for bid in Alaska. But they demonize the oil companies, and yet they make it possible for them to make more money than they ever had because the price goes up so high. But why would the oil companies that have to spend millions of dollars checking out leases go to all that trouble when they know that the Biden buddies are going to be out there to file lawsuits, and the Department of Justice is not going to be helpful, and they may pull it at the last minute. They hear themselves being demonized by this president, and nothing affects more products than the price of oil and gas. And because, gosh, you got to have diesel to put them on ships to bring them over here when they're coming from other countries. You put them on trucks that are using diesel or trains that are using diesel, and the price of fuel goes up. Everything goes up. And this president does not get that. You can't put them on a solar-paneled ship or truck and get them to the places they're needed, including getting baby formula to the moms.
Yeah, this latest move, as you're pointing out, to cancel this huge oil and gas lease sale makes no sense. How is that going to make our lives better? Clearly, the administration isn't taking things seriously. And when you look at this baby formula shortage, this didn't happen overnight. We've known about it at least since February, when there was a recall from one of the factories on some of the baby formula supply, okay? But also, too, we have the supply chain issues. And so now White House was like completely silent on this, even like the past couple weeks, as parents were coming to the news media sharing their issues and how difficult it was becoming to feed their babies. And this isn't a snack. This isn't Doritos for kids or something like that. I mean, babies need this for development. And I'm really uncomfortable with how the White House has reacted to this.
The Biden administration has done nothing to help. They've done everything to hurt. And by the way, they have been so focused on Ukraine, and that $40 billion bill, Stephanie, to put that in perspective, had my staff check. It turns out before I vote, I was telling other people around me, guys, Ukraine spent $5.94 billion on their entire military appropriations in 2021, and now they're going to put $40 billion on top of $13 billion we've already passed. You know that's not all going to make Ukraine stronger militarily, and because they gave it to us too late, we didn't know where all that money was going, and it gave way too much discretion. And look, I know Biden's a good negotiator, because like we've heard him when he was saying he said, Ukraine, look, I've got $6 billion for you, and you're either going to fire the prosecutor that's going after my son, or you're not going to get the $6 billion. We know he's a good negotiator for his family, but he is a rotten negotiator for this country.
We did hear from House Speaker Nancy Pelosi on this money for Ukraine, so let's listen to that and we'll react after. Roll tape.
The impact that it is having on food for the world. So when you're home thinking, what is this all about? Just think about when I was hungry, you fed me, in the Gospel of Matthew.
Again, the American people were compassionate people, were very generous with our taxpayer dollars, but we don't know where this money is going. There's been a complete and total lack of transparency. The people who are on the ground in Ukraine, by the way, they're like, where's the money? Like, a lot of these organizations, they're charity organizations, and they're fundraising and getting their own money to help the people of Ukraine. I mean, there's no receipts here. I mean, where is this money going to go?
Well, and
and how do we keep track of it?
We all go before the judgment seat, and Pelosi says, hey, when they were hungry, we fed them. I don't think it's going to sound good that, yeah, we sent money to oligarchs in Ukraine while babies were starving. I don't think that's going to be seen as an act of compassion for the babies when you're sending money to oligarchs in Ukraine and over in Asia. So I don't think that's going to be a good defense. I think she'll need to rethink that.
Yeah, exactly. Really quickly, I wanted to shift gears and get your reaction to the whole SCOTUS leak and then what followed, which was the protest outside of the Supreme Court justices' homes, the conservative justices, if you will, and then the White House reaction to it. We do have a video of White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki, so let's look at that and we'll react to it after. Roll tape.
Is that there are voices on the right who have called out this protests that are happening while remaining silent for years on protests that have happened outside of the homes of school board members, the Michigan Secretary of State, or including threats made to women seeking reproductive health care, or even an insurrection against our Capitol.
I don't think I've never really heard any Republicans saying that it's okay to go intimidate people outside of their homes. And then also, too, these are the same Democrats who always call everything a threat to democracy. It is a threat to democracy if you have angry mobs outside of the homes of justices as they are considering a decision on Roe v. Wade.
Yeah, and it's the greatest of ironies to have people that are threatening the governance of representative government and forcing us into totalitarianism, and they're saying that we are the threat to governance. Yeah, well, we're a threat to totalitarianism that they want to get to, but they think they're so much smarter. But let me tell you, the most racist thing that we've had in our Judiciary Committee in the last month is the racist attacks on Justice Clarence Thomas, one of the smartest people to ever be on the Supreme Court, who came up with nothing. He grew up with nothing except love from his grandparents, and he worked. He was brilliant. He still is brilliant. And yet, because he doesn't do exactly what they think a black man should do, then they have become racist. And we had a hearing in Judiciary, and Mark Paoletta was one of the witnesses, and he said, you know, it's racist, these attacks on Justice Thomas. And then one of the Democrats said, well, you just tell us one racist thing that's been said about Justice Thomas. And Mark said, well, you just had your chairman call him an Uncle Tom. We'll start there, but I got a whole bunch more. And the Democrat said, no, that's okay. That's okay. He said, no, I got a whole bunch of racist things you guys have said about Clarence Thomas. And no, that's good. It's good. Well, it is racist to attack somebody for their skin color because they happen to disagree with what you think. He's a brilliant man. He loves America. He is such an asset to this country, and it is outrageous what they're trying to do to him.
I couldn't agree with you more. And we know how the Democrats treat minorities in the Republican Party. They call them every name. They're completely despicable with all the hate and vitriol that they spew towards minorities in the Republican Party because they can't win with arguments. They can't win with logic. So they